So my colleague Ethel Mejia and myself will be presenting on building a SciENcv Biosketch from existing profiles. NSF will require this on and after October 23rd. At least that's what they're saying now. We'll require it for grant submissions. First, I'm going to talk about ORCID. So ORCID is a researcher profile system. Many of you are probably already aware of it, and I'll discuss it in more detail in a moment. But it can help you populate the SciENcv Biosketch, and I'll do a little demo of that. Then we'll move on to SciENcv. We'll spend most of our time talking about that, and then I'll do a little demo. Then I'll hand it over to Ethel, and she'll talk about scholars at TAMU and an ORCID connection. And then we'll have a Q&A. Okay, so what is an ORCID? So it's an acronym for an Open Researcher and Contributor ID. ORCID.org is a nonprofit organization. It's an open and non-proprietary system. At its essence, it's a unique 16-digit identifier that helps link your scholarly activity. It helps with name disambiguation. So many of us like to think our name is rather unique, but often there are others that share the same name. So this helps with that name disambiguation. To set up an ORCID, it's 3 easy steps, and there's a link to ORCID there. I'll take a look at that in a moment. Okay, and getting back, well, my name is unique. Why else would I need an ORCID? Well, some funding agencies are required that you have an ORCID and that you include that in the submission. It allows your work to become more discoverable. So also journals are asking for the ORCID. And then when these articles and other research outputs are indexed in databases, it makes your work more discoverable there and elsewhere. The information from a fully populated ORCID profile can be used to pre-populate similar fields in other systems, such as Scholars at TAMU, Pivot, which is a grant opportunities database. And you can search for funding, and also SciENcv. So this is what an entry to an ORCID, your ORCID would look like once you create one. There's really only 2 bits of information that are required. One is the name, really it could just be a first name. And then it would display your 16-digit ORCID ID. And so there's one there. A lot of these other fields, you can make a decision whether you want them to be public or private, aside from the name and the ORCID. All of these that you're seeing along the left side, like the email, the other websites you might have, other researcher profile IDs, keywords related to your research, as well as alternate names or names that you've used in the past. All that in the biography, and employment and education qualifications and a couple others are all manually entered. When you get down to the works, these would be research outputs, journal articles, presentations, book chapters, patents. These can be manually entered, but they could also be pulled in from other sources, and we'll see that in a moment, such as databases. There's a couple other sections here that I don't display, like funding is another one, which would be grant funding you've received. And that's another one that could be manually entered, or you could use a database to help populate that. Okay, so let's take a little look at the ORCID. This is a web page here. Click on this, your web page. So if you have not created an ORCID, it's 3 easy steps, as they say. Come up here to sign in and register. So if you have one, you can sign in here. If you don't, you come down here to register now in the fine print. And the first step is just your name and your email. If I enter mine, it'll recognize me and tell me I already have one. But you would hit next. Then the next screen would be you create a password, and then you hit next again to indicate whether you want your ORCID to be all private or public. But again, you can select individual elements to be publicly visible or not. So then once you create it, the ORCID, you'll get a confirmation email, and then you just confirm. And we would sign in. Go back up to the sign in register there. And again, you'll have either your email, your ORCID, and then you'll have your password. But what we're encouraging is you could also use your TAMU net ID and password. So access through your institution here. So I'm going to click on this. It recognizes me from before, so it has the Texas A&M logo here. But the first time through, you could just type in Texas. And there's Texas A&M on the top, and you'd select that, and then click continue. And then normally what would happen is it would ask you to authenticate with your NetID password. I believe it'll probably just pass me on through since I've already logged in today. Let's see. Yeah, so it took me right into my ORCID. And so this is what it looks like. Everywhere you see a little pen icon, this is an editable field. And so like, for example, the biography here, you can click on the little pen, it opens up a box, and you can edit this. I can decide on whether I want to make this private or publicly available, or only shared with trusted parties. So these would be entities that you agree to share the information with. So in the case here, we're going to do that with SciENcv. But I'm just making it publicly available to everyone. Cancel out of that. So all these are editable. The ones with the green dots are the ones that are displayed publicly. So you have employment, and again, all of this is manually entered. Employment is as well, and education. And then here's some of the sections that I don't have populated. But these invited positions, distinctions, membership, and service, these would be manually entered. So you come down here and you can add membership or service. Funding, as mentioned, you can come down here and enter it manually. Or you can search a database. So search and link, you click on this. This takes you to something called the Dimensions Wizard. And this is part of the Dimensions database, which is a kind of a traditional database that you would search the literature, but Dimensions also includes awarded grant funding and also data sets and some other things. So if you click on that, it'll search by your name. And so it may pull up things that don't belong to you, like neither one of these are mine, but let's say they were, then you could select those and click next, and it would move those over into your ORCID. And then we get down to works, and there's all sorts of ways to get your research outputs, your articles, patents, presentations into ORCID. So over here with the add button, click on that. One way is the search and link. Let's take a look at that. You have a number of options here. Our suggestions would be cross-ref metadata search. So you click on that. Now this is going to go out and search this cross-ref database by name, which would pull up all sorts of things by all sorts of David Hubbards out there. I'm going to add in the last name of co-author of mine, actually former supervisor. And that'll help narrow it down a little bit. But you could come in here and search by title and other things. But this is the article I was thinking of here. And then you can just click here, this little ID, the green circle with ID in it is the logo for ORCID. So you click on here and that'll add it to the ORCID. The cross-ref metadata search is one way. Another way is Scopus. We don't have a license to Scopus, but you can access the researcher profiles in there. So if you click on Scopus, it's over there. And so it's showing all the David Hubbards in this database. This one appears to be mine here. So you select that, and then you just hit a series of next buttons. Okay, so that's me. And then you can decide which ones you want to move over. So all of them are selected, or you can select certain ones. And then hit next. And then it's saying, well, this is what's going to be sent next. But then you do need to enter in your email and confirm that, and then it'll eventually send a list over to ORCID. So those are two databases you could use here. What's not listed here is Web of Science, which many of you might be familiar with. In the case of Web of Science, you log into your researcher profile within Web of Science and then sync it with ORCID. So that would be another option. There's many others here. You could add them manually, which we're not suggesting. The idea is to kind of make this easy to get things to port over. Some of you might have a BibTeX file for those that use LaTeX and use that. You could look it up in PubMed. If you publish in medicine, life sciences, you could also search by DOI if you wanted to. Now, when you do bring these over from some of the databases like Crossref Metadata Search or that Scopus Researcher Profile, you really can't edit those. For example, this one here. So there's no way you can edit this data. Whereas the ones that have been brought over by other means, such as, well, manually entered or Crossref, you can click on here and edit the entry a little bit more. So that's something to keep in mind. So the idea with ORCID and a lot of these researcher profile systems is you kind of enter once, reuse often. So that's the idea. We're going to move on to SciENcv, another acronym for Science Experts Network Curriculum Vitae. This is a researcher profile system that was developed by National Library of Medicine. It's part of NCBI, and it helps researchers prepare the documentation to submit for federally funded research. It currently supports the biosketches for NIH fellowships, and IES, the Institute of Education Sciences, and then also the NSF current and pending other support form as well. It automatically uses the most updated forms, so that's one reason to use it, that when it does populate automatically, sort of, it will use the most updated form. It allows your biosketches to be shareable, so you can make them public, and it'll provide you with a URL that you can share with others, maybe a co-PI that's also working on their biosketch for a submission. So you can kind of coordinate with what you're sharing on those, or you can share it with maybe a junior faculty member so they have an idea on what the biosketch should look like. And as mentioned, it's going to be mandated by NSF in October 23rd, on or after October 23rd. NIH doesn't mandate it, but they highly recommend it, mainly because you're going to be using the most updated forms. And SciENcv is integrated into a number of systems, so like ORCID. There might be other systems that you're in that are operated by, say, NSF or NIH, where you might find a link to SciENcv where you can link out to, and where it's sharing the data. In terms of accessing SciENcv, there's usually multiple points to access it, since it is integrated into these other systems. So if you do see a link to SciENcv, that would be one way. The URL that's shown here, that's the URL that would take you to the main SciENcv webpage. And then in terms of logins, you have all sorts of options. They have two buttons here for the ERA Commons, which is part of NIH, NSF, grants.gov, if you have logins for those. But probably the better options are some of these third-party options under the more options. Texas A&M University NetID, encourage that, kind of log into one of these, and then it'll kind of authenticate the other one for you. So that's probably the way to go. And we'll take a look at that in a moment. Okay, once you do log in to SciENcv, you'll have a mini profile up at the top. Initially, it'll just have your name, and then you can go in and edit it and add in some additional information. Whatever shows up in this mini CV here up at the top, will be treated as public information, so just keep that in mind. And this is also where you can, once you click on the edit button, you could add in your ORCID here and your NSF ID if you want. And as far as creating the SciENcv Biosketch, again, there's 4 different biosketches that you could prepare, and then also the NSF current and pending other support. So you would just, you would name it, you would select which one you want. And then as far as a data source, you can kind of start with a blank document from scratch, or you could use one that maybe you prepared earlier and edit it and create a new version. Or you can use external source like ORCID to help pre-populate it. You can make these private or public. Typically it'd be private, I guess, unless you want to share it. Let's take a look at SciENcv. Okay, so here we are. Let me log out. I had logged in. So now I'm logged out. So here you could either click the login button, which makes a lot of sense, or you can click this more options. Either way takes you to the same spot. So again, it's actually saying that the third-party login is now mandatory. It's recognizing me because I logged in before, so I would just normally click here, but I'm going to click on other login options. So there's a bunch here, but then under more login options, you have this list of institutions up here at the top. I can type in the name of the institution. So I'm going to type in Texas there, and there's Texas A&M on the top. So I select that. Normally it would authenticate, but since I've already authenticated once today, it's recognizing me. So this is the mini profile I just talked about. You can edit this. You come here to edit. Again, all that would normally display initially is just your name, and then you can change how it displays, your title, your department, institution. And then prior to this being linked to my ORCID, it said something like add ORCID. And then you just click on this button, and then it adds your ORCID. Then to create a document, we create new document here. Click on that link. To name it. And then which one you want to prepare. Let's go with the NIH first. Could start with a blank document. I'm going to drop down here to using the external source, ORCID. I'll populate that form, and I'll go ahead and make this public. And then I'll click the create button. Thinking up here in the left-hand corner. Document, pulling in things from ORCID. Okay. So we have the file name up here. It's an NIH Biosketch. In this case, for this Biosketch, you can download the PDF is what you would ultimately submit, but you could also download a web version or an XML version. They have different options here. The name, the education and training. So this section was pulled in from ORCID. But if you don't like how it displays here, you can come in here and edit most of these entries here. So if I wanted to edit something here, I can come in here and edit. Its personal statement was the bio that pulled in from ORCID. Again, this is something you could edit if you wanted to. For the NIH, you can add up to 4 peer-reviewed publications to highlight your experience and qualifications. So then when you click on citations, you'll see the ORCID tab here. So these are what are brought over from ORCID. And there's also my bibliography, and this is part of the my NCBI. I also populated that, and I populated that from a download from Scholars, actually. This is from Scholars at TAMU, as I'll talk about in a moment. But ORCID here is, I'll select from here, so I can select up to 4. I'll just here, and then save citations. So then those have been added in, and they'll sort however you indicated. So it says publication date. We'll see if that, it may not render it on this initial form, but when the PDF is downloaded, it will sort them by date. But again, you can mix and match these two. So if you do have a My Bibliography over My NCBI, you can select from there as well. You can kind of mix and match from the two if you wanted to. Add in honors if you like. Contribution to science. So these are different sections. You have a description where usually this would be like a paragraph or something, describing your experience, qualifications, and what you've contributed. And then you select citations here. Then you could add in other up to 5 of these contributions, and so then you could add in again some up to 5 there. And then when you're ready, click the PDF button down here, and it will PDF for you. So hopefully you all can see that. Open up in the tab. Size of this is kind of big here. But you can see how it populated this NIH form. By date. Back up here, I mentioned you could share these if you set it to public. So this URL would basically take somebody else to this form as it's shown here, and they'd be able to look at it, but they wouldn't be able to edit it. You could also download this as a Word document, and you could make some maybe additional edits to it if you wanted to, and then save it as a PDF. So you've got some options there. Okay, so you can go back following this breadcrumb trail. So I'm going to click on SciENcv here. And I could open up one of these again and edit. So I can go into the edit mode. I can delete some of these. I can edit this one that I just created. Bring that back up again. Create another one. Let's go into the NSF. We'll create a new document. Date. Sometimes this sharing disappears. Go ahead and make that public here. So like after I clicked on the NSF biographical sketch, that disappeared. Again, we'll go ahead and use an external source. We'll use ORCID. It's thinking. Already had something named that way. Okay, we'll do this again. Public again, NSF biographical sketch, and use external sources ORCID. So then it's in a similar fashion. Here's the name of the document. You can share this URL. 1, 2. Name. Again, all these are editable, so we can edit these entries if we needed to. There's also links for the NSF form here that'll take you over to the guidelines. So you can click on this, and it'll take us over to this area that describes how to complete this form. The back browsing, back. Appointments and positions and products here. You can add up to 5 that are closely related to the proposed project, or some other significant works, products that whether they're related or not. So again, you click select citations, and then you can select these again from either my bibliography or ORCID. They loaded those up. Now these, unlike the NIH form, you can move these around. So if I wanted a different type of sort, let's say I wanted alphabetical, I can grab these and move these around a little bit. And then select these other significant products. And so these could be logistic activities. Again, for more details on this, you might look at the guidelines, but these are, 5 distinct examples that demonstrate broader impact. And so these are usually short little paragraphs. In this case, what it did was it brought over my biography and the keywords that I had regarding my research into these 2 fields. But these you can edit, or you can delete them, or it's something different. Then you would download the PDF. You don't have the option for the Word, so there's really no way to kind of edit it after this. So we click on the PDF. Now, in the case of the NSF form, it's going to ask you to certify. Now, I'll show you how you can set up delegates for this. So some PIs, principal investigators, might delegate kind of completing this form to somebody else on the research team. But then when it comes to certification, that needs to be done by the PI. And so if a delegate was to create this, then it would kind of stop there, and then you would contact the PI and say it needs to be certified, and then they would come in and it would agree. This NSF Biosketch. Filled all this out. And speaking of delegates, to add a delegate, you would come up here to your account. This is my account up here, covered at ORCID. Account settings. Information about the account, and then down here you can add a delegate. I'm going to try to add Ethel real quick. I think it's the library to me. Just be TAMU and see if this works. So it sent Ethel an email. It usually arrives pretty quickly. Once she confirms, then she'll be a delegate and she'll be able to go in here and complete some of these forms, except for the certification at the end there for the NSF form. You could also limit it to what areas, whether just SciENcv or my bibliography, which is really part of NCBI. Kind of lost the breadcrumb trail, but you can go to my NCBI here. This is showing all the tools in NCBI, but one of them down here is SciENcv. So that's a way to get back there. I could have also clicked up here and then click my dashboard. Count settings one more time. There we go. So Ethel did receive that confirmation and click the link, and then I can decide on the SciENcv or my bibliography, and then could also remove delegates. One other form I wanted to mention here. To create new document, there is the NSF current and pending other support. Private, select this here. You can also use, well, this one we start with a blank document, or you could revise an existing document. So this isn't going to be populated with ORCID. And the current and pending support document, it's really just manually completed. So in this case, ORCID doesn't really help out with this. So we would create, it opens up the form, add in information here to add in something. Any of these things out. See something once we create the PDF. Populated. It did bring my ORCID over though. Current and pending support. Again, this is all manual. Overlap. So it entered in that one in-kind contribution. Again, similar thing, complete this manually. And then the certification. Download. Again, if this was delegated, the PI would need to do this. And then agree. Here's that form. And it does have the ORCID in there. That's the demo for that. I'm going to turn it over to Ethel. Talk about scholars at TAMU.
Thanks, Dave. All right, howdy. So another part of submitting a good grant proposal is finding the right collaborators. And while ORCID provides you a unique identity throughout your scholarly career, Scholars at TAMU helps to enhance your researcher identity and reputation linked within A&M. And in cases where funders and researchers are looking for new collaborators, Scholars at TAMU provides a searchable database of research expertise across disciplines, which includes faculty publications, patents, and research interests. So to improve and update your Scholars at TAMU profile, so just go to scholars.tamu.edu, click Edit My Profile from any page, log in using your NetID credentials, and this is where we are trying to make everything easier for everybody. And then once logged in, you can update any of these sections from your profile by clicking the Add Item or a plus button. To remove any item you don't want to be visible, just click on the trash can icons. If you don't have a profile yet, simply complete the request form and we'll be happy to create an account for you. Scholars also allows you to share and highlight your research. Adding your A&M affiliations will list your profile in multiple places within our site. Completing a research overview and your research areas will help make your profile more searchable where potential collaborators can easily find you. Listing other websites will also help aggregate your online presence. Our system runs weekly to find publications that you may have authored, which you can then log in to claim or reject. Linking your ORCID will also allow us to populate your publications into scholars. And that's again where, enter somewhere once and we use it multiple times. You can also export a few or all of your publications from your scholar's profile into a bibliographic format that can be used to upload in SciENcv, Faculty 180, and other profile systems. So for use in SciENcv, you can show up to 500 publications, select the publications you want to export, and then click the export button. This is usually downloaded into your downloads folder. Then head over on to my NCBI, go to Manage My Bibliography, select Add Citations from a File, and upload the file that you just downloaded from Scholars. You'll get a confirmation screen, and voila, your list will now be available to select and add to your biosketches. We also make it easy to find potential collaborators using a phrase in the search bar or multiple phrases connected by the words and or enclosing phrases in quotation marks, or you can search for researchers who have added specific keywords into their profiles. And because we use linked data, you can easily find other collaborators of a researcher, including their co-authors and co-investigators. We can also create other graphics that you can include in your proposals. And if you have questions or need assistance with additional graphics or your scholar's profile or SciENcv, please contact us at the libraries.
Thank you, Ethel. So a few additional resources here. Ethel put together this nice guide here. Let me try to open this in a new tab. So this guide here provides a lot of different screenshots, creating sign in, SciENcv, create a CV. So there's many screenshots here to look at. This is part of NCBI help manual for SciENcv. And so then there's a lot of information here about using the NSF biographical sketch, for example. And there's also plenty of screenshots and information here as well. And then this is a YouTube video. It's about an hour long with folks from NSF talking about the biographical sketch and the current and pending other support with SciENcv. And with that, thank you.